A new migrant caravan is headed towards the U.S. from southern Mexico. Mexican border agents and the police tried to break up the group of about 800 people yesterday. Several people were arrested. This is all being reported by Reuters. It's the fourth caravan officials have raided in recent days. The group is made up of mostly Central Americans and Haitians who say they are fleeing poverty and violence in their home countries. Obviously, Haiti suffered that earthquake as well. Let's check in now with former Acting Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan, also a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Mark, great to have you back with us.
Thanks, John.
All right, so last week the Mexican president said the strategy of containing these migrants in the south was untenable on its own, and more investment is needed to keep them in Central America from leaving their homes. I mean, that is obviously a long-term solution, but here in this moment, at a time when our borders still are very porous and we have obviously new pressure on immigration and refugee systems, you know, they know, I think, that this is their chance. This is their opportunity, because you would think that given what we are hearing about the Afghan refugee situation, there may be, if not this year, next year, after 2022, more restrictive immigration enforcement coming down the pike eventually.
Yeah, John. Well, first of all, when we talk about root causes like this administration has been talking about for a long time, yeah, that's a long term. And quite frankly, administration has been doing that, and it's been a failure. But we can address this immediately, and we did in the Trump administration. There are specifically policies that can be in place that we did in the Trump administration that not only substantively secured our border, but closed the loopholes and sent a loud message, loud and clear, that migrants on our border was not going to be open. You are going to be released into the United States and never be heard from again. That's what we need to do. And, you know, we've won a couple of court decisions right now. The Biden administration was told by the courts they must mandatory reinstitute the Remain in Mexico program. It's programs like that, John, that are going to make an immediate difference.
Yeah, you know, these were the policies that the Biden administration was so eager to undo when they first came into office, and there are obviously questions about that. Mark, I also wanted to ask you as well about what we're hearing about these reports of child brides and human trafficking involved in the Afghan refugee effort. I mean, I think the first question we have to ask is, how does this happen in the first place?
Yeah, well, John, look, I think the whole world sees that. It's not about the decision to leave Afghanistan. I think we've crossed that. This is about how we executed evacuation. It was a colossal failure. It was about speed and not about substance. So now, look, there is no way that the military people on the ground were able to execute and do extreme vetting before they boarded in the plane. It just wasn't possible. So now we've got them to go into third countries, and we've got time to slow down and do it right. And John, we're still not doing it. Look, Emerald just talked about what's going on right there. It's obvious. It's being exploited. Right now, reports are up to more than 100 people who boarded Afghan planes out of Afghanistan were on the no-fly list. We've already had one incident where a convicted rapist has made it to Dulles Airport. And look, Secretary Marcus, his own words and his own words of his intelligence apparatus at DHS says, we can't rule out that this wasn't exploited. It's unbelievable. And it's unconscionable that we're still putting speed over substance when it comes to vetting.
Now, I want to take a listen to something that the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said, talking about the processes which are used to vet these Afghan refugees. Here he is.
So we have a robust screening and vetting process. And one thing that is remarkable is not only are we utilizing the architecture, the system that we have here in the United States, but we actually have built a system, so another layer in the transit third countries to achieve a multi-layered process.
Multi-layered process, systems, architecture. I mean, Mark, no offense to you or anyone else who's worked in government for a long time, but, you know, most people don't talk like that. That's not how normal Americans speak. What is he talking about?
John, I don't know. I couldn't agree more. That's a bunch of I'm sorry. The only thing that could when I was listening was blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it sounds like the teacher from Peanuts.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely, John. Look, at the end of the day, look, there is no way for an SIV applicant. That's an individual that truly risked their lives to help American military personnel in Afghanistan. It takes months, if not over a year, to do that vetting process. And they have found widespread fraud in that on the best under best circumstances. Now, this catastrophic evacuation, they're doing this in days. It doesn't make sense. Look, there are multiple opportunities where ISIS, the Taliban, et cetera, could have exploited this. I mean, right now, you have an older male and a younger female that's a refugee, that's not an SIV, never helped America, that's got some sort of document or no document at all. How are we going to prove that, John? How are we going to prove who they are and that they're actually married? It's impossible. The biometric data he's talking about, what if it doesn't exist for the people? And what he's not telling American people is that the majority of these are not SIV holders. The majority of people come to the United States are general refugees, which a lot of them we know nothing about.
Right. And, we're showing some video, which I believe was released from the Defense Department with the welcoming committee, welcoming these folks here. And, I think we all agree there are certainly thousands of folks, tens of thousands of people who should be coming here, who have helped us for the last 20 years. But there are a lot of questions about how everything went down and whether or not we're safe and whether or not they're safe right now at this point, Mark.
Yeah, John, if I can real quick, I couldn't agree more. Look, yes, I believe we have a moral obligation as a compassionate country, which is another reason why we're the greatest nation on the face of the planet. That doesn't mean that we abandon common sense.
Right, exactly.
We can do both. Look, let's slow down, keep it in third countries, do a complete vetting process. What we didn't hear from the secretary is that he would guarantee that he was not importing a threat in the United States. That we didn't hear from him.